blah, 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 blah.
Welcome to the Our Forever Smiles podcast, a podcast created to support mothers of children who were born with clefts and those who love them. I'm your host, Laura Arroyo, and I'm also a mother of a daughter who was born with a surprise cleft palate. I know the challenges you face every day. Whether you have just learned the difficult news of your baby's cleft lip or palate, you're in the midst of pre-op or post-op, or you're an OG cleft mom, this podcast is for you. In a weekly conversation, we will talk about everything from feeding and speech therapy to surgery and school. We'll share tips from guest experts and advocates and even share a little joy in the process. You can listen to Our Forever Smiles wherever you listen to podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned. Hello and welcome back to the Our Forever Smiles Cleft Mom Diaries and Support podcast. I am Laura Arroyo. Thank you to all of our subscribers, new and old. I appreciate all of the support that we've received from this wonderful community. You can listen to us via Apple, Spotify, and everywhere that podcasts are available. Don't forget to subscribe if you have not yet, and stay tuned. As a note, we are not medical doctors, and we do not intend for you to use the information that we share here as medical advice. We are parents and advocates who love our children, and we are sharing our own personal experiences. So, Kelly has been on the podcast before, and I am thrilled to bring her back because we decided that we wanted to do like a top 10 Q&A, or it may end up being like top 15. We're not going to count or anything like that, but we just want to do a quick Q&A about pumping. I feel like there's lots of questions that people have and ask about pumping in general, especially because the news of not being able to breastfeed, especially if your baby is born with a cleft palate, more specifically, there are a lot of questions around being able to exclusively pump. And so we want to answer some of these questions. If you did not listen to the episode that we did with Kelly before, her first episode, she shares her journey. She is a speech language pathologist, a certified lactation counselor, and she is also a cleft mama. So she's a super expert here. She lives in South Carolina with her husband and her 3 sons. So welcome, Kelly.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
All right. So we're just going to jump right in. So these questions just came from random things that I found in groups. And so we'll go ahead and start with the first one. They're not in any particular order.
Okay.
Maybe I should have organized this a little bit better.
It's okay. We'll see where it goes.
Okay. The first question. I'm expecting our first cleft baby any day now and was thinking about the first skin-to-skin golden hour time after birth. We're expecting a fully involved cleft lip and palate. I know so much of that golden hour is latching and getting colostrum. What does this look like for a baby that won't be able to breastfeed? If the palate ends up not being affected, I'll breastfeed for sure. But I'm not interested in latching if the palate is involved. Will the hospital have milk prepped for me immediately after birth? I'm planning on pumping, but when and how does that happen after he's born? I talked to my midwife at my next appointment in a couple of days, but I was just curious what other people's experiences were. Hello, everyone. Sorry to interrupt, but I need a little bit of help. If you're listening to this on the Apple Podcast app or YouTube, you may see a follow plus sign or subscribe button. If you're able to, it would mean the world to me if you could follow or subscribe. That's the best way to support this show. If you subscribe, I'm able to show it to potential guests or different brands. It helps to grow the show and reach more communities to continue building awareness about the cleft lip and palate journey on a global scale. Thank you so much. Back to the conversation. That is actually really interesting because now that I think about it, if I didn't produce, what were they going to do?
Yeah. There's a lot of pieces in that question too. So like the golden hour, skin to skin, that's going to be the best way to signal to your body that like baby's here. Obviously you deliver, all of that happens and that's one way, but doing skin to skin is going to be the best thing that you can do to help encourage your milk supply. And then you would definitely want to try some hand expression to get that colostrum. You can bring supplies. I know there's lots of on the market now. Hakka makes a little colostrum collection kit. I think Mom Cozy makes one as well right now. You don't have to have something fancy like that. You could just express onto a spoon or into a medicine cup. And then a lot of times you could ask the hospital for some syringes. They'll bring you some little 1 milliliter syringes or something like that. And you can use that to feed baby, or you could just feed them right off the spoon.
The other one is, will the hospital have milk?
Hospital may have a milk bank, access to a milk bank. Not all hospitals do. And in that case, they would probably offer formula. But honestly, doing some hand expression and learning how to do that before you have baby is huge, because baby really does not need that much in those first couple of hours, first day or two. We're talking maybe 5 to 10 milliliters at a feeding, very small amounts.
Yeah. I was thinking, okay, so if they don't have a milk bank, then they will give you formula too.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess what we had was like, so at my hospital, they did have a milk bank, but I was also,
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I was also pumping though too. And so, because I actually started producing, and we might talk about this in a bit, so I don't want to share that part yet. But so I was using my own milk, and like I was able to produce right away. Like they gave me like the medical grade pump or whatever that they had, and it worked. It really helped. So I think, as you stated, skin to skin, and then just start pumping right away. Yeah, it says the last part of it is, I'm planning on pumping, but when and how does that happen after birth? So yeah, just right away. As soon as
you can. And I know sometimes it can be very hectic after birth with all the doctors, and they're transitioning you from one place to another, and every hospital is different, but as soon as you can get settled and get going.
Yeah. And as soon as I remember, I guess depending where you are, like the time that you give birth, and then also the hospital that you give birth at, the lactation consultant actually came to see me. It was it's like really all of a blur. It must have been like the very next day. So
yeah,
they do come to see you so that maybe you can learn a little bit of like tips and tricks of how to do the hand expression. Alrighty. So the next question is, hey mamas, any tips for a successful pumping experience? I never even learned to use a pump with my first child. Now, with a cleft affected child, it's all I can do. I hate it. It's 3 times the work. 1 pump, 2 feed, 3 clean bottles. I can't be in a relaxed position doing any of it. I miss side-lying nursing, and I don't feel as bonded to him. In your experience, what are some ways to make this better?
That's so tough. It's a tough place to be for sure, because it is a lot of work. So you could get creative. You could pump and feed at the same time, have a bottle prepped, try to build that connection, so to speak. You could probably, if it's really taking a toll on your mental health, is it worth it? What's going to be the best thing for you and baby? Is it, okay, I really want baby to have my breast milk, or is it, I really want baby to have a happy mom? So you might consider switching to formula or seeking out donor milk, so that you are not having to be tied to the pump. If you have a pump you have to plug in, you could consider a portable one, so you're not having to be stuck in a chair. Yeah. And I totally get the not sitting in a comfortable position. piece. Because sometimes like I find myself in like this awkward position. I'm like, what am I doing? Hold on, let me relax. And treat yourself during your pump times. Treat yourself, let yourself scroll. Get yourself a little box of chocolates and keep it by your little, wherever you pump, your little pump station. Have some chocolate while you pump. Watch a show. Like I used to binge watch episodes of Big Bang Theory for Noah. And I would just watch it only when I was doing that. And it was just fun and mindless. And that was like a little treat for me.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you feel like, okay, when I pump, I get this reward. So you kind of like mentally, it helps.
Yeah.
Like it helps.
Relax.
Yeah.
Because if you're not relaxed.
Yeah. I used to do that for exercise. Like I would tell myself, I can only listen to this podcast. Not this one, another one. I can only listen to my favorite podcast whenever I was exercising. And so it would motivate me to
I love that.
Exercise. Yeah. So that's a great tip. And then the other thing is, if you are really like hating it, then just let it go. Like I know it's really hard. And it's easy for me to say because I actually I was never attached to the idea of breastfeeding to begin with. And before I even found out about Giselle's cleft palate. And so not being able to do it, I mean, it is a different feeling when somebody tells you can't do it versus deciding for yourself you're not going to do it. Right. But yeah, I didn't feel that deep like grief that people feel. I feel like I didn't. So it's hard for me to feel, I don't know, like
connect with that.
Yeah. To I guess to give advice as far as not feeling bonded to your child. And then I can also hear in the question that you really don't like this. So yeah. All right. Great tips. The next one. I am in the process of looking at breast pumps and trying to decide what pump will work best for exclusive pumping. I was hoping some of you might have good input. Along the same route, what feeding pumping routines work to best for you?
Mobile in your bra pumps cups are not going to be your primary pump if you're exclusive pumping, because they just don't typically get as much. They're great if you're on the go or whatever, you're out, you want to be more discreet at work, but you definitely want to have a primary pump. And it can be one that has to be plugged into the wall. It can be a rechargeable one. There's some really great ones. Spectra is a really great brand. The Baby Buddha is a really great one. They just released it as intense with the suction. Pumpables has some really good pumps. The Unimom Opera is a really fabulous pump. And if you have to rent one, a lot of times insurance will cover that crazy hospital grade one. It's very big. It's heavy to lug around, but it works. It is. What did you have?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna look at. I think it was. I'm looking at it now. I feel like I had two. What do you call that? Portable pumps.
Mm-hmm.
I think I may have had the Mandela. But to echo what you were saying, in fact, I started to get clogs from using it. And because I needed to have a more powered expression with the wall pump, because it doesn't get everything. Yeah. So that's like, I started to get like clogs and stuff from just using the mobile pumps. But it is, for cleft moms, we have a lot of appointments.
So it's a great option to have. And if you have not heard of the Series Chill breast milk chiller, Google it and get yourself one. It is amazing. I use it every day. So I'm pumping now with the babies when I'm at work, and I use it every day. And it cuts down on parts and pieces you have to wash, because you can just pour your milk right on in there. And then when I go to make bottles for the next day, when they go to daycare, we just pour it right out, wash it, and on the go. It keeps your milk cold for like up to 20 hours. It just holds ice. It has an inner chamber. It's great. Treat yourself to that.
Oh, wow. Yeah, we'll put the link to that in the show notes.
Okay.
Yeah, also, like, my fiance, he, like, saw, because all these appointments, like, back to back, and, like, I was not able to control my production, so I was always walking around with, like, drops.
Oh no.
It's so embarrassing. Like, and then I would, like, so I would buy the patches and everything, like, to try to, like, and they would fill up, and it was just
Oh,
awful.
wow.
Yeah, so then that's when I got the portable, because I'm like, I have to, like, I
Have
have to
something.
express somewhere, because I have to pump somewhere, because I'm just leaking all
Yeah.
over the place. So yeah, but that would have been nice to have the series chill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's just since, like, I had Noah in 2021. He was my cleft baby, and they had come out with it right around when I was finishing pumping, and I was like, I can't justify spending the money. But when I got pregnant this time around, I was like, oh, I'm buying that thing.
Yeah. I feel
I was
you.
very, very happy.
All right, moving right along. Has anyone figured out how to pump while feeding a newborn with a Haberman bottle? I see moms in my exclusive pumping group who can pump milk while bottle feeding, but I'm not seeing how I could get the positioning right to feed a cleft palate baby with the Haberman while 2 more bottles of milk dangle off in front of me.
Yeah. It could be tricky. I'm trying to imagine this. I don't know, because you got to position baby a certain way. Yeah, that's probably pretty hard. That might be a time when I would maybe try to use some in cup or in your bra cups with my pump, so that way you weren't having to worry about that. So I probably wouldn't be able to do that every time I fed. I'm wondering if positioning baby maybe up on a pillow kind of next to you, so you could almost lean and feed baby. That's definitely a tricky one. I would probably encourage mom to work with either a lactation counselor or a feeding therapist to figure out a good way to do that. Because I know with the Haberman bottle, you gotta turn it a certain way and hold it. Baby's got to be positioned a certain way, so that's a tricky one.
That is tricky. I'm thinking about it myself, and I had the bras as well that you could put the pumps in as well, but even that you're still like, you have all this stuff in front of you, and so you can't really, maybe if you put it, I think the best advice is what you said, because now I'm thinking about it, I had a boppy that I probably could have put next to me and then had her on it and then position myself.
Yeah. What bottle did you guys use?
We used the pigeon.
Okay.
Yeah.
That worked well.
Yeah, I'm so glad I changed, because I talk about this on the podcast a lot. But we were doing Dr. Brown's in the beginning, which is what most people use.
Pretty typical, yeah.
What the hospital recommended, but I don't know what it was about that bottle, but it was either user error or she didn't like it. But like, it would work when I was in office and I was in front of the feeding therapist, but then when we got home, it would be like she'd have so much trouble, and I'm like, I can't fight a bottle every feeding. And so she said, why don't you try the pigeon? And we tried the pigeon and it worked, and I'm like, I'm sticking to what works.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and she wanted a faster flow, like I knew that for sure. And yeah, and the pigeon has a faster flow. Something that I've been meaning to talk about as well is I attended this cleft lip and palate feeding session, and they said something about the pigeon, like having to squeeze the pigeon, but that's not true. So I don't know why they mentioned that. You can squeeze it if you want it to go faster than what it already is, but it's not required for them to get any milk out of it.
Yeah.
Have you heard of that? No? Okay. I know the Haberman, you have to squeeze it.
You have to, yeah.
Yeah. But the pigeon, you don't have to do that. So I wanted to I didn't want to be that person like in the chat, like, no, you don't.
Be like, excuse me.
Yeah, so I decided to just let everyone be misinformed. Okay, moving right along. How did other families do it? What was you and your partner's shift schedule? What did you and your partner's shift schedule look like? Any advice on how to manage all of this work and time? Did other moms have a hard time napping or develop postpartum anxiety or depression?
Mhm. Figuring out the schedule is definitely tough for sure, especially in the beginning when they feed so frequently. Um, you're right, it takes 30 to 45 minutes to feed and burp and all that. And then, oh, I got to pump for 20, 30 more minutes. And especially like in the middle of the night, you're like, why am I going to go to sleep? I'll have to do this again in 30 minutes. Uh, so, yeah, it's nice if you and partner can work it out where you pump and they feed, or you have someone else to help you do that. Figuring out how to pump and feed at the same time definitely cuts down on time that you're awake. But yeah, that's hard. You just have to play around with it, honestly.
Yeah.
What worked for you guys?
Yeah, it was just me, so
You're like, I didn't know. Yeah.
yeah, no, I'm joking, but I'm not. I think it really depends on your partner's schedule. Like, for example, with me, I work from home. Of course, I wasn't working like when she was first born, but my fiance works like he was working like an hour away from here. So he would have to get up really early, like 4 o'clock in the
Mhm.
morning, in order to be on time for work. And so it was really just me having to do everything. And what I would do is just no easy way to do this, honestly. Like, I would wake up and I would pump and then feed her. Um, and then I would have milk already pumped, right? So I would give her what was in the fridge and then I would, pump for the next feed or the next ones down the line. And yeah, that's just how it worked. I can see how, this can cause turmoil or a
Oh,
little bit
yeah,
of like resentment in your home as
for
well.
sure.
And so, but I think if you're prepared for that, if you're prepared that that like the baby is really reliant on you in the
Yeah.
first like 3 or 4 months. Yeah.
Mhm. I've seen too where couples have split the night into shifts. And so that last feed before baby goes to bed for the night, okay, mom pumps, and then mom gets X amount of uninterrupted sleep while dad's kind of on duty and takes care of baby. And then mom gets up that middle of the night pump. And then they more or less switch. Dad goes to the quiet room, gets uninterrupted chunk of sleep, whereas mom's kind of on baby duty. And we actually ended up doing something like that with the twins, and it worked very well because not having sleep is no fun.
Yeah. And then it
Uh,
will make you sad. I know it made me sad.
oh, yes. Makes you feel a little crazy.
All right. Next question. I need some advice. I recently had my baby boy and I have been exclusively pumping. These last few days, I've noticed a slight decrease in my supply. Since these last 3 to 4 days, I've ignored my alarm to wake up to pump at night. I've been going like 5 to 6 hours without pumping, and I was wondering, besides making sure I do wake up to pump, what can I do to increase my milk supply?
Baby was just a few days old with that
Yeah,
insinuating. Okay.
she continued on to say that, yeah, he was just born.
Yeah, definitely waking up to pump because that's just signaling to your body you need to make more. I would also encourage to make sure that your parts are fit correctly to you. So making sure your size correct because that can make a big impact on how efficient and quickly you can pump, but also prevents damage and chafing and blisters and all those really not fun things that you don't want to have on your nipples.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I tried all of them and it still hurts some, right? Or is it not supposed to hurt at all?
It's not supposed to hurt at all. Um, yeah, it really shouldn't if you're sized correctly. And most people are much smaller than the flange that comes in your pump kit. Just automatically assume that you more than likely have to purchase either a smaller flange or an insert. And definitely get pumping spray to lubricate your flanges.
Oh, see, I'd never heard of that.
Yes. I used coconut oil with Noah. And I honestly, there's times where I would just put whatever the nipple balm I had out, just slap some of that in there. But you can actually buy like a little spray nowadays. They have those out and very helpful. So
that's really cool. Is there anything that she can take? I know, what did I take? What's that called? Sunflower.
Oh, lecithin. Yes, that's super helpful for you have clogs often. That can help decrease some of that inflammation in the tissue and so the milk can flow easier. That doesn't necessarily increase your supply. There's definitely a lot of stuff out on the market that they're like, eat this and you'll increase your supply. Honestly, the biggest thing is making sure you're hydrated, you're eating good quality calories. And one of the things that actually has been researched and proven to help support milk supply is oats. So that is one of the few things that really will help. You're probably not going to see huge amounts, but you might notice a little bit if you're consistently consuming that.
Okay. So that's why people make the cookies and stuff. Okay. So it's partly because I always thought, that stuff doesn't work. But maybe if they're putting oats in it and stuff, it's you have some like good nutrition, stay hydrated, and oats and pump when you're supposed to. That's really the big thing too. Like,
and good fitting part.
Yeah. Oh, good fitting part.
And a good pump.
Yeah.
If you have a crappy pump.
Okay. Next one. Hi, everyone. Just a question for moms that collected colostrum before birth because they were planning on solely pumping and bottle feeding. How much did you take into the hospital with you, and how many syringes did you get before your milk started coming in and you could express? I know everyone is different, but just want to be prepared.
Yeah. So you could do, if you're going to express before you have baby, I would definitely collect different amounts. 2 milliliters, 5 milliliters, 10 milliliters in syringes. And you can freeze it in your freezer and then just take it in I took mine in a little lunchbox with a freezer pack. We also used one of our Yeti tumblers. Once the freezer pack wasn't cold anymore, we just were putting ice in there and putting them in ice because they really it's not hard to keep cool because they're so small. Does that make sense?
What does the colostrum look like? Because I feel like I went straight to breast milk.
It's different for different people. So some people have like a clear kind of liquid. It might be a little yellow, but it's like clear. You can see through it. Some people have like very dark yellow colostrum. It really just depends. And some people produce a lot of it or are able to express a lot of it by hand. And some people, you can only get a little bit out. Just, I don't know, everybody's different.
Yeah, I think so. My midwife told me that I could go ahead and start pumping, which I think was it was really good advice, but yeah, so she's told me to start pumping. She told me to start pumping like week 38. And the reason she told me was to start getting ready for birth. Then the reason why I paused is I'm thinking like maybe that's the reason why she took a little while to come out because she wasn't really ready. But anyway, that's a whole other side story. But yeah, so when I did start pumping, I started to like bead, like I could see some of it coming out. And at that time I wasn't it wasn't enough to collect. Like how do you, I guess you could take a syringe and syringe the beads.
So I would recommend expressing it, like I said before, either onto a spoon or like in a little medicine cup or something like that, and then draw up the syringe. Would almost want to do that for a little bit, like a couple sessions. before you drew up your syringes so you could get a decent amount. And honestly, like, hand expression is gonna be the best way typically to get that cholesterol moving. And it only takes a couple of minutes, 5 minutes, get some. And sometimes you might not get any one session that you do. And then later on, you might get a bunch. It doesn't take much. So you actually used your pump before, like when you were still pregnant, you actually pump. Wow. That's brave. Did that send early labor?
No, it actually didn't. Like
Okay.
And it was at, I don't want to like, I can't really remember. It was either at 38 or 39 weeks. She was cooked. And so she recommended that to start getting going. And I don't know, I also may have just used my pump. That might not have been the recommendation. It may have been to hand express, but I can't remember.
Right. But you're like, oh, this is what I'm doing. I got this.
I wanted it so bad to be able to produce. I think I took on more of a challenge to produce milk rather than breastfeed. I didn't harp so much on the breastfeeding aspect of it, even before I learned about Giselle's cleft palate.
Yeah.
It was more so like I wanted to be able to produce, like I didn't want anybody to tell me that I didn't produce enough. And so, that was like one of those things. I was all in with that. So for the next question, we actually answered a little bit of this, but I'll read it. Mamas who had to pump a lot for their little one, what are some breast pump features that meant the most to you? Specifically, looking at a double electric pump, is there a brand you recommend or a brand that you do not recommend?
Yeah. Do not recommend the Medela pumping style. It just doesn't features on it. If there's no screen, you don't know what level suction you're on. It's just not. There's so many out there that has a digital screen. You can see what suction level you're on. They have stimulation mode. They have expression mode. It's like labeled for you. Like I said, Spectra, that's a great one. And the Pumpables Genie Advance is super popular right now. I have the Unimom Opera this time around, and I love it. It's a dual motor pump, and you can control each side individually, which is fabulous for, if you respond to, on one side versus the other, like you can make that happen. So I love it. It's my favorite. But I think having the screen and being able to see like what you're on is huge. If you don't know, you're like, okay, I think, and there's no timer. There's no timer on the pumping style. Terrible pump.
Alrighty. The next one. What things can I put on my baby registry besides the bottles for my baby girl that has a unilateral cleft lip and palate? I have bottles and nipples on there, extra bibs, pumping supplies, since I plan to exclusively pump. But what can I add that'll help me save some in the future? Also, I will take ideas for pumping supplies, as this is my second baby, but first exclusively pumping. What are some supplies?
Some good supplies.
Baby Brisa has that bottle washer thing. I pumped for about 4 to 5 months, around there. And then we switched to formula. And I used the Baby Brisa, and that thing was amazing.
The formula dispenser?
The formula dispensers. Just with that, if they did that well, I'm assuming that
the bottle washer thing. The only con that I have really heard about the bottle washer is they have the little tablets, the dishwashing tablets, and you like have to use those tablets. So you couldn't just use like any dishwashing detergent. But really, that's the only thing I've heard that people are like bothered by. Otherwise, people seem pretty happy about it. We this time around got a sterilizer and dryer for parts in bottles, and I've loved that because there was nothing worse than when you would go to grab a bottle you thought was dry on the drying rack and it wasn't actually dry. So I loved having the like sterilizer and dryer to dry everything. So it was ready to go. I could just grab what I needed. Also, a mini fridge. Did you have a mini fridge?
No, I did not.
Oh, girl, a mini fridge in your bedroom so that in the middle of the night, you do not have to go downstairs or go out to your kitchen. You can keep a drink in there for yourself, keep your milk in there, keep bottles in there. Like at night, I would take up a little basket and I had my pump parts and I had bottles for the night and I had a little portable bottle warmer, and we just set it all up on the dresser. And when it was time to get up and pump and feed, and we did all the things and saved myself a trip down the stairs.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking about that, and that is really genius.
Yes,
Yeah,
it was
mini fridge.
the best.
I'd probably
Now I use it
for
drinks.
snacks. I was just gonna say
Like,
that.
keep water up there, keep some snacks up there.
That's hilarious. Alrighty, next question. And I don't really know if you're going to have the answer to this one, but it says, what pacifier can you recommend for a cleft lip baby?
Mhm.
Also, just in case I won't be able to express milk, what milk did you give?
That's a good question. So pacifiers, Noah did really well with the bibs pacifiers. I've also heard some cleft babies have done well with the MAM pacifiers, especially like the larger, older one, even though baby's little, they'll get like the 6 to 18 month one or something like that because they're bigger and they can keep it in their mouth. Eventually, we transitioned to using the Dr. Brown's Happy Passy, but that was after his lip was repaired and he could more or less hold it since it was the same shape as the bottle. But yeah, those are what I've heard and seen work well. I do feel like though, until we found what worked for him, like it was passy roulette, it's okay, try this one. Okay, try that one. Okay, try this one. So we had quite a collection.
Do you recommend any specific milk? So this isn't really related to pumping, but do you have any formulas?
Like as far as formulas, really that's dependent upon like your preferences. Like if you want something clean and organic or whatever, you might want to think about taking that formula into the hospital with you. Because a lot of times hospitals have brands like Enfamil or Similac. And if you don't want to use one of those brands, then come prepared. I actually had a friend who did that. Maybe did not have a cleft or anything, but she knew that she was going to be induced early because of some other stuff going on. And she was like, I don't want to give her the formula at the hospital. So they brought their own.
Yeah, that's a great tip. My daughter Giselle, I don't know whether she's really a good gauge as well. It's really highly dependent on your child, but because she wasn't really one to like complain about anything, to be honest with you. Like she's such a sweet girl. Like she just
okay, mommy.
Yeah, she's just like down for whatever. But we did use it was a Similac 360 Total Care Sensitive orange formula. So, and that worked for her. But as I shared, I don't know whether she's a good gauge because I feel like she would have taken anything I gave her.
You'll know if it's not a good fit. Formula's tricky. Honestly, though, breastfeeding can be really tricky too. You get allergies and people have to cut things out of their diet. And feeding a baby is hard work.
Yeah, it is.
No matter how you do it.
Yeah, interesting. It's interesting you say that because that's really the reason why I stopped pumping is because Giselle had a lot of reflux with my breast milk. It told me it's because it's thinner, which I've heard ENTs say different things. But he says it's thinner so it's easier to come up. But that babies kind of spit up and so it's thinner so it's easier to come up, and he said that she would grow out of it. And she did, but I was concerned about it. And then I was thinking, like, do I really want to go on this elimination diet? I'm already really stressed out. Is it the coffee or is it the dairy, or does she not like croissants, whatever it is. I didn't want to put us through the stress of like weeks of doing this trial and error.
Eliminating.
But that's my journey, right? That someone else in a different position may be able to do that. And I've heard of a lot of moms doing that. They said they stop dairy or caffeine and that sort of thing. So that's also a possibility and something that you could do if your baby isn't responding well to your breast milk. All right.
Next question.
I may have two. Okay. So due to my boy slowly gaining weight and not gaining enough weight, I've decided it's best that he just takes formula, which is helping him more than my milk. I need tips on how to dry up my milk.
Yeah. So definitely decreasing is so tricky because you don't want to stop too quickly because you don't want to get sick. And you said that had happened to you.
Yes. So
yeah.
I don't even think I was trying to dry up my milk. I was just not pumping as much as I needed to.
Okay.
And then
did you get mastitis?
I didn't. She told me that it wasn't there yet. But even just the clog made me feel
painful.
And it gave me like a sick feeling. Like I felt nauseous one day, and like all of a sudden the flu came over me or something. And I thought I had mastitis. But I went into the office and she felt the clog, and then she just squeezed the living crap out of me. And like my milk just like shot out like.
Yeah. Okay, so when you say she, your midwife, you're a lactation consultant?
My midwife.
Your midwife? Okay. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I would definitely recommend if you want to stop relatively quickly working with a lactation consultant, do so safely. If you're in this pumping journey and you're ready to wean, you can start by either reducing the time across all of your pump sessions, and slowly like decreasing how much time you're spending at the pump, and then eliminate sessions so that you will hopefully not get a clog or get mastitis if you're trying to stop too quickly.
Okay, so I did have one last one. Okay. And it is, do I need a bottle warmer? I've heard some people just work on getting their baby used to drinking cold room temperature milk. Give me all of the tips.
This one is an interesting one. At first with Noah, we just gave it to him cold. And he took it, didn't mind. He didn't know any different. We went about our day. And then he had a lot of trouble gaining weight and all of that stuff. And so one of the things that the LP on the team was like, hey, are you warming his bottles? And I was like, no, why? And they said that by warming the milk, it requires less energy for the body to process it. I know with feeding our cleft babies, we really have to be mindful of like how long it's taking them so they're not burning more calories than they're consuming and all of that. And so that was one thing that they were like, hey, you should totally warm it up. You don't have to if your baby's taking it just fine, if they're gaining weight okay, they don't have to. But you may also find they like it warm, play around with it. As I have found, as babies get older, they tend to not be quite as picky if it's warm or cool, but when they're little, it can definitely make a difference.
Yeah, that's so interesting. So Giselle, we started off giving her whatever, and then I feel like one day we warmed it up, and it was like
made it different.
It was a protest. It was like I need a warm bottle every time.
Oh no.
Yeah, and it's so funny that you say that as they get older, they grow out of that, but she is almost 2 and she's still drinking warm milk, but it's cow's milk.
I love that. That's so funny.
Yes, and so she's literally at her sister's grandmother has been taking care of her recently, and her sister is about 7, and so she knows some things. And she's telling her grandmother, she's, oh, Gigi, you have to warm that bottle up for her. She's not going to drink it. And her grandmother was like, I thought she was joking. And I'm like, oh no, she's not joking.
No. Oh, I love that. She's no, I need it warm.
That's like
so
for
funny.
babies. Oh, that's my girl. She didn't, that's why I always say she didn't have many requests as a baby. So maybe I
I'll
I
warm your milk.
spoil her too much. I'll do it.
Yep.
You didn't have too many choices in your life. In the life that you've had, there's a lot of things that you didn't get to choose. And so you can certainly have warm milk and you can suck your thumb. Which is also something she does.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. So hopefully this was really helpful to you all that are deciding to pump. If you have additional questions, please, if you're in the Facebook group, go ahead and drop the questions in there. But you can also reach Kelly as well. Kelly, you want to tell them where they can reach you?
Yeah, my Instagram is Kelly_Columbus21. If people want to just message me, that's fine.
Alrighty. So you can DM Kelly on Instagram. And thank you so much again, Kelly, for joining us.
Yes, it was so fun.
Thank you all for listening to the Our Forever Smiles Cleft Mom Diaries and Support podcast. Be sure to subscribe and submit a review of the podcast wherever you listen. I hope that you've enjoyed this audio experience. Maybe you cried a little, laughed a little, but more importantly, I hope that you feel a little piece of reassurance and even joy in your journey. Talk to you next week.